Hey everyone, and welcome back. I am so excited that we get to share this Friday together. We've made it through the week. Let's celebrate. Let's have a scavenger hunt. So, what is our new scavenger hunt this week? You guys will just have to stay tuned and find out. But before we talk about our scavenger hunt, we have prepared for you guys. Let's talk about our riddle. So our riddle today is a little tricky, a little challenging, but hey, I know you guys are up for the challenge. So without further ado, our riddle is, I never ask questions, but I'm always answered. What am I? I'll let you guys think on it, and of course, at the end of the video, after we read a little bit of our chapter book, James and the Giant Peach, we will figure out the answer together. So if you don't figure it out, no sweat. Teamwork makes the dream work, like I always say. Now it's time for our scavenger hunt, and guys, it's a good one. I'm really excited to share it with you. I hope you guys are excited because I sure am. This week's scavenger hunt is a super cool one that you can do with your whole family, just hanging out in your house, staying safe. Now, what am I talking about? What am I going to share with you today? We are going to be sharing a family book scavenger hunt. Oh yes, the whole family is able to partake. It is a bingo style type of cross off once you find it. It's really fun, really cool, and I hope you guys enjoy it and spend a little time with the folks you love before we all head back to school. So stay tuned and I'll show you exactly what it looks like. Also, if you guys want to see it, want to access it, want to print it, want to have it on your tablet, just check out the links below. It's right there for you to print out and do whatever you need to make sure you have a fun scavenger hunt. So now let's see what we're looking for. Do you guys see it? I sure do. It is this week's scavenger hunt, family book scavenger hunt. I'm really excited about it because you guys can make it into a competition. Make it work for you and yours. But hey, loser has to do the dishes that night. As you guys can see, there are a bunch of things for you guys to find, from a place you want to visit in a book, or a book you've read more than once, possibly even a book with a funny title. We love a funny title. Now, it's all up to you. What can you find? What can you see on your bookshelf? I wish you and your family the best of luck, and hey, I hope you win so you don't have to do those dishes. Now it's time for our positive action. Today, our positive action is going to be focusing in on yet another big feeling or emotion. So, we talk a lot about big feelings and emotions on this channel, right? We've talked about really happy, joyful, positive emotions, and also some really heavy, sad, worrying stuff, right? We've talked about all of the emotions, maybe not all of them, but we've really focused on the big ones that can be very hard to control. And today is another example of that. Today we're talking about pride. Now, what is pride? Pride is being proud of yourself, being proud of your achievements, being proud of what you do, who you are, how you treat people. There's all different ways we can be proud. Specifically, there's ways to be proud about pretty much everything, right? Like I said, the way you treat people, the sports you do, the schoolwork you produce, the music you write, anything. And I want to let you guys know, you're pretty awesome. You deserve to be proud of all the hard work you do, how you treat people. Oh my gosh, the list could go on, because I know how stinking awesome you guys are. And it's important to keep that in mind. But when pride can get a little bit on the negative side is when we have false senses of pride. Now, what does that even mean? Let me tell you. False pride is when someone who really hasn't put in the work is proud of what they did, but they didn't do anything. You see what I'm saying? An example of this is you're in a school project with someone. You do all of the work for the presentation. You prep it, you write it, you get it all to the teacher. You're in charge, you do the work. And that person really doesn't do much. Maybe they show up, but they're not really showing up to help a whole bunch, which is stinky sometimes. But that person, once you get a really good grade on your project, goes, wow, we did it. We did such a great job. And you're just kind of there like, I did such a good job. And, it's okay to say, hey, I put in the hard work because you should be proud of your hard work. And that person didn't put in the hard work. So why should they be proud? You see what I'm saying? A false sense of pride is when someone has pride in something they have no relation to. That doesn't really apply to them. They didn't put in the work to that thing. So now we've talked a little bit about the positives and the negatives of pride. Think about some things in your life you're proud of. Think about some things that maybe you're proud of that you didn't have a part of. Think about it. Dissect it a little bit. It's okay to do some self-reflection and be a little critical, but it's also important that we highlight the best parts about ourselves. So make 2 lists. Make some positives and make some negatives. Because as great as we all are, we all have things we can improve upon. So now it's time to read. It's that time again. Time to read our book, James and the Giant Peach. If you guys last remember, we left them off. They were being circled by sharks. So I hope it goes well. Think, begged Miss Spider. Think, James, think. Come on, said the centipede. Come on, James. There must be something we can do. Their eyes waited upon him, tense, anxious, pathetically hopeful. Part 20. There's something that I believe we might try, James Henry Trotter said slowly. I'm not saying it'll work. Tell us, cried the earthworm. Tell us quick. We'll try anything you say, said the centipede, but hurry, hurry. Be quiet and let the boy speak, said Ladybird. Go on, James. They all moved a little closer to him. There was a long pause. Go on, they cried frantically. Go on. And all the time while they were waiting, they could hear the sharks threshing around the water below them. It was enough to make anyone frantic. Come on, James, said Ladybird, coaxing him. I'm afraid it's no good after all, James muttered, shaking his head. I'm terribly sorry. I forgot. We don't have any string. We would need hundreds of yards to make string that would work. What sort of string? Asked the old green grasshopper sharply. Any sort, just so long as it's strong. But my dear boy, that's exactly what we do have. We've got it all here. What? Where? How? The silkworm, he cried. Didn't you ever notice the silkworm? She's still downstairs. She never moves. She just lies there sleeping all day long. But we will easily wake her up and make her spin. And what about me, may I ask, said Miss Spider. I can spin just as much as Miss Silkworm. What's more, I spin patterns. Can you make enough between you, asked James. As much as you want, and quickly, of course, of course. And would it be strong? The strongest there is. It's as thick as your finger. But why? What are you going to do? I'm going to lift this peach clear out of the water, James announced firmly. You're mad, cried the earthworm. It's our only chance. The boy's crazy. He's joking. Go on, James, the ladybird said gently. How are you going to do it? Sky hooks, I suppose, jeered the centipede. Seagulls, James answered calmly. This place is full of them. Look up there. They all looked up and saw a great mass of seagulls wheeling around in the sky. I'm going to take long silk string, James went on, and I'm going to loop it around one end of the seagull's neck, and then I'm going to tie the other end to the end of the stem of the peach. He pointed to the peach stem, which was standing up like a short, thick mast in the middle of the deck. Then I'm going to get another seagull and do the same thing again, and another and another. Ridiculous, they shouted. Absurd, poppycock, bladderdash, madness. And the old green grasshopper said, how can a few seagulls lift an enormous thing like this up into the air? And, well, all of us. It would take hundreds, thousands. There's no shortage of seagulls, James answered. Look for yourself. We'll probably need 400, 500, 600, maybe even 1,000. I don't know. I shall simply go on hooking them up to the stem until we have enough to lift us. They'll be bound to lift us in the end. It's like balloons. They give someone enough balloons to hold. I mean, you're really enough, you'll go up. And the seagull has far more lifting power than a balloon. If only we had the time to do it. If only we are not sunk first by those awful sharks. You're absolutely off your head, said the earthworm. How on earth do you propose to get a loop going around the seagull's neck. I suppose you're going to fly up there by yourself and catch it? The boy's dotty, said the centipede. Let him finish, said Ladybird. Go on, James. How would you do it? With bait. Bait? What sort of bait? With a worm, of course. Seagulls love worms. Didn't you know that? And lucky for us, we have the biggest, fattest, pinkest, juiciest earthworm in the world. You can stop right there, said the earthworm. That is quite enough. Go on, the other said, beginning to grow interested. Go on. The seagulls have already spotted him, James continued. That's why there's so many of them circling around. But they daren't come down to get him while the rest of us are standing up here. So this is what... Stop, cried the earthworm. Stop, stop, stop. I won't have it. I refuse. Be quiet, said the centipede. Mind your own business. I like that. My dear earthworm, you're going to be eaten anyway, so what's the difference if it's just a seagull or a shark? I won't do it. Why don't we hear what the plan is first, said the grasshopper. I don't give a hoot what the plan is, cried the earthworm. I'm not going to be pecked to death by a bunch of seagulls. You will be a martyr, said the centipede. I shall respect you for the rest of my life. So will I, said Miss Spider, and your name will be in the newspaper. Earthworm gives life to save friends. But he won't have to give his life, James told them. Now listen to me. This is what we'll do. Part 21. Why, it's absolutely brilliant, cried the grasshopper, when James had explained the plan. The boy's a genius, the centipede announced. Now I can keep my boots on after all. Oh, I shall be pecked to death, wailed the poor earthworm. Of course you won't. I will. I know I will. And don't even tell me I won't be able to see him coming because I have no eyes. James went over and put an arm gently around the earthworm's shoulders. I won't let them touch you, he said. I promise I won't. But we've got to hurry. Look down there. There were more sharks than ever now around the beach. The water was boiling with them. There must have been 90 or 100 at least. And to the travelers up on top, it certainly seemed as though the peach were sinking lower and lower into the water. Action stations, James shouted. Jump to it. There's not a moment to lose. He was the captain now, and everyone knew it. They would do whatever he told them. All hands on deck, except the earthworm, he ordered. Yes, yes, they gently and eagerly scurried into the tunnel's entrance. Come on, let's hurry. And you, centipede, James shouted. Hop downstairs and get that silkworm to work up at once. Tell her to spin as she's never spun before. Our lives depend on it. And the same applies to you, Miss Spider. Hurry down. Start spinning. Part 22. In a few minutes, everything was ready. It was very quiet now on top of the peach. There was nobody in sight. Nobody except the earthworm. One half of the earthworm, looking like a giant, thick, juicy pink sausage, lay innocently in the sun for all the seagulls to see. The other half of him was dangling down the tunnel. James was crouching close behind the earthworm in the tunnel, just below the surface, waiting for the first seagull. He had a loop of string in his hands. The grasshopper and ladybird were further down in the tunnel, holding on to the earthworm's tail, ready to pull him quickly out of danger as soon as James gave the word. And far below it, in the great stone of the peach, the glowworm was lighting up the room so that the two spinners, the silkworm and Miss Spider, could see what they were doing. The centipede was down there too, exhorting them both frantically to greater their efforts. And every now and then, James could hear his voice coming up faintly from the depths, shouting, Spin, silkworm, spin, you great, fat, lazy brute, faster, faster, or we'll throw you to the sharks. Here comes the first seagull, whispered James. Come still now, earthworm, keep still. The rest of you is ready to pull. Please don't let it spike me, begged the earthworm. It won't. Shh. Out of the corner of one's eye, James watched the seagull as it came swooping down towards the earthworm. And then, suddenly, it was so close that he could see its small black eyes and its curved beak. And the beak was open, ready to grab a nice piece of flesh out of the earthworm's back. Pull! Shouted James. The grasshopper and ladybird gave the earthworm's tail an enormous tug. And like magic, the earthworm disappeared into the tunnel. At the same time, James's hand went up and the seagull flew right into the loop of silk that had been held out. The loop, which had been cleverly made and tightened just around the neck, just the right amount. Now, the seagull was captured. "Hooray!" shouted the old green grasshopper, peering out of the tunnel. "Well done, James." Up flew the seagull with James paying out the silk string as it went. He gave it about 50 yards and then tied the string to the stem of the peach. Here is our picture. All right, guys, that is where we're going to wrap up our reading today. Now, it's time to talk about our riddle. If you guys remember, at the beginning of the video, we talked about our riddle. Who remembers what it is? No worries, I got you covered. Our riddle was, I never ask any question, but I'm always answered. What am I? The answer is a doorbell. I thought this one was a little tricky, but also a little silly once you find out the answer. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys got the answer. And if not, I'm happy that I helped. Now, it's time to go. I'll see you guys. Bye. Thank you for watching.